Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley is brought to you by Aggressive Marketing Solutions, your solution for all business social media needs. If you need a team of social media marketers and content creators to help you build your brand on social media, text WES 2020 to 541-709-6502 today. Get started building your brand on social media. Success is defined differently by every individual. Some have never even considered what it is. I hope when I get older I'll be successful. What does that even mean? Money? Cars? Big house? On this show, we strive to look at it a little deeper, learning from successful individuals on what they believe success really is and how to obtain it. Everybody, enjoy the show. This is Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley.
Hello and welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Today we have a great guest on the show. His name is Bill Snodgrass. He is a mentor and also a teacher. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. You know, I found you on TikTok a few months back, and it's a very great platform, I think, to kind of put you in the same niche as what you're working on. Why don't you just go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from, everything.
All right. Yeah, so I'm a high school teacher. That's my paid, my paid job is being a high school teacher. I teach an introductory science class. I'm in Northwest Indiana now. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee for 38 years. Moved up here to do some things and ended up working my way into this position in the high school. So I've done a lot of things over the years. If you go to my LinkedIn page and you look at my resume, people are like, what were you thinking? And that's an interesting question sometimes is, what actually was I thinking? So that's it. My leadership and those sorts of things comes out of a lot of lifetime experiences, courses I've taken and things like that. And I got to a place where I needed to figure out what is my definition of success? What am I trying to be in the bigger picture of life, and not just like what am I going to do today and how am I going to put groceries on the table? And obviously that has to happen, but above and beyond that, how do I define what I am and what I do? And then so that's sort of what led me into the teaching position. I have an opportunity as a mentor with kids. Beyond teaching them chemical reactions and solutions and all that other stuff that's part of a chemistry physics class, I get to talk to them about responsibility and being accountable for themselves and the work ethic that they need in order to do the things that they have to do in order to get to the things they want to do. So that's kind of where the mentorship kicks in.
How long have you been a teacher now? How many years have you been doing that?
My first day as a classroom teacher was in 1985, which probably predates most of the people who are, watching this, and certainly most of the people on TikTok. I taught for 2 years in my first position, and then another year in a different school, and then I worked in a social service program that was a leadership training program for high school students, and I worked there for quite a few years. And went back to high school as a guidance counselor. And that my next batch of high school was as a guidance counselor. I did actually work 2 years in a mental hospital as a therapist, and then I went back to work at a college level, and I was there for 8 years. I was the director of students for a small music college. Not that I'm a musician, but they were musicians, and I was part of the staff. And then that led me into Northwest Indiana, and one thing led to another here. And now I'm in the high school position teaching young people. So
that's a pretty good background. You talk about counseling and mentorship programs and leadership programs and all those things, and that kind of gives me a little bit more foundation to why you talk the way you do. Because one of the things that I really like about your stuff is it's real similar to me. It's like we kind of have the same type of thought process about setting goals and things like that.
Absolutely.
What motivates you to think that way? What makes that drive in your head and that decision? Because it is all life experiences. That's where I draw mine from. So how did you come to that conclusion that you had to be the way that you are?
And so at some point, I think in like 2010, I can go on my Twitter and look at it. We had a staff meeting at the college, and a guy walks in from the head of the marketing, and he was like, everyone needs to make a Twitter page and start posting. And this was kind of like a defining moment for me, because I was like, why would I ever want to post anything on Twitter? What would I ever say that anyone would actually ever care about? And that's when I kind of began to develop, I guess what you would say is my personal mission. And when we talk about success, I feel like there is your mission and what you do, and your mission is going to define whether you're successful or not. And so if your mission is to, I don't know, stack Oreos, and you're actually
Right.
stacking chocolate chip cookies, then you're not successful. You stacked a lot of chocolate chip cookies, but you said you were going to stack Oreos. So as I'm sitting here trying to think, why would I ever post anything on social media? I says, what is it that I am actually about as a person? And so I was probably, I guess this would have put me in my early 40s when this happened. And I decided that what my contribution to the world can be is to create circumstances in which people can become what I like to say, become the best version of themselves possible. There's boundaries and limitations and things, that are constraints. They're going to limit people, and we have to recognize that. And the illustration I always use is, I will never be in the NBA no matter how hard I work at it. I'm too short. I'm too old. I'm too slow. There's a lot of physical constraints that would prevent me from being successful in any major, any sport. So defining what it is that you're trying to do. So my definition was, within the context of what is reasonable, create circumstances and help people create circumstances where they can be the best version of themselves. Now, with that as my definition of success, and then I track that through the work that I have done in the last 20 years. It brings me into that classroom setting where 100 and some kids a day interact with me. And in interacting with me, I have an opportunity not only to talk about the content of the class, but to inject into their lives thoughts and questions about what they're doing. It's like the kid shows up to class without his calculator. It's like, well, how's that going to work out? Because we're doing mathematical calculations, and you don't have your calculator. How is that decision that you made, or they'll leave their notebook that they use every single day. They'll leave their notebook in their locker. It's like, how is that decision that you made going to affect the outcome of what you're trying to achieve? And so that ability to mentor, and then their actual, the student input has been one of the driving forces to move me into YouTube and now TikTok, was their interest in beyond the classroom content, and even my entrance into YouTube beyond tutorials and was from a student who's like, you should do a vlog, you should do a daily vlog. And the vlog ultimately became the series of motivational, inspirational videos, and that ultimately became the TikToks. I don't feel like I'm like super successful, but I have most of my videos, like 100 people will watch them on a day, and I feel like for those 100 people, it meant something. It's not like
Yeah.
some of the big social media platforms that are getting millions of views and millions of likes and whatever. And that means something to some people, but I feel like the 100 people, or the I got like 16 likes on a video. 16 people were affected in a positive way. And
Right.
that is a measure of success towards my personal goal of creating circumstances where people can become best versions of themselves. So I have to look at my my personal mission and then apply that in my work context, my family context, and my recreational context, and then evaluate what I do based on, did I achieve what I set out to do? Did I create circumstances where people can become better versions of themselves? And that's an ongoing process, and whether I did or not feeds back into what I'm going to do next time.
So you're using like the failure kind of as a feedback if there is failure, and re-engineering what you were doing to create a better lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. I mean, part of the reason why I don't teach anymore, but part of the reason why I wanted to teach was kind of the same thing. It's like, if I can affect one or two kids in a positive way, which you're always trying to do more than that, but you set your goal for a certain amount, but there's kids that still talk to me. There's kids that I coach that still, we have relationships and things like that. And that was kind of what it was about, was that one person. So even if you have 16 likes versus, some of these people have millions, I don't know why. I mean, they're not things that I'm interested in. You still have this audience, and it's a
Right.
great way to cultivate it. So what would you say? Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's an old story about a person who was presenting content, let's just say, and it was like a blizzard, and only one person showed up. And so the person who was presenting went ahead and presented, and the guy goes like, well, it's just me. Why are you just doing this? And the guy goes, well, you're a farmer, right? If only one of your cows showed up at the barn, wouldn't you feed it anyway? And you work with who's there. If it's 16 people that show up, or it's 16 million people that show up, you work with what's there. You work with the people that are consuming your content, and you do the best that you can for those people. If you're running your own business, I don't know why I always use coffee shops as an example, but if you say you're running a coffee shop and one person walks in, aren't you going to try to give them the very best experience that you possibly can give that one person? And I think that applies to pretty much anything that you're going to do. If you're a doctor, you're going to give that one patient the best care you can give. And if what did you say, you're in your position, you're going to give your customers the 100% experience every single time,
Right.
because that's what they deserve.
Yeah, and that's kind of what life's about. I read one of John Wooden's books, and it just kind of hit me really hard. And that was kind of like his mission statement on success is kind of the same thing. It's just knowing that you did the very best that you could, no matter what, and being okay with that. If it was a loss, if it was a win, as long as you knew that you did everything that you could to be successful. So yeah, that's a great, whatever you're working with, do everything you can. So, how have times changed? Obviously, you've been teaching for quite a while. How have times changed with what's going on now? Is a probably pretty big eye-opening thing compared to being in a classroom. You're having to learn how to adjust to that. But are you continuing doing some of the things and just learning more and more daily towards your teaching goals and stuff?
So the way that content is presented, it has been changing. And a lot of school systems have gone to more of a electronic format for content management, at least. And a lot of teachers, for a longest time, the analogy was, we're still using chalkboards in an era of overhead projectors. Well, there's the education system has had to respond to the digital chalkboard, the digital overhead projector, the digital whatever you want to call it. I remember when I was in middle school, we had a teacher. They use overhead projector and they put the transparencies on it and would write and erase and write and erase. Well, then by the time I got into graduate school, it was all PowerPoints. So and now the need to actually be face to face in a lot of cases is much less need. These kinds of things that we're doing, you and I are doing right now, we're 1,000 miles apart, and yet we're having an interview. My sister, who is a couple years older, is a project manager, and her client has thousands of employees, like multi hundreds, like I think it's like 1,200 or 1,500. They've been working remotely for a month now. They've all been continuing to do their jobs through various kinds, WebExes and Google Meet and whatever. And so education is responding to that. Now there's another function to education that is not content related, and that is that mentoring and those aspects of giving a structured environment for the students during business hours. That function is you may have seen like some of the responses in social media of parents who are like, I can't get these kids to do any of their assignments, kind of
Right.
making, and I think you said maybe before we started the interview that you're working with presenting content to your own kids. So it's a
Yeah.
different
Yep.
experience. It's a
It
it's a
definitely
different
is.
experience. So, but the mode of education is responding, and I kind of jumped on that when I went back to the high school level, trying to create video content to augment what I was doing in the classroom, and creating digital notes that they can access anywhere, anytime, those kinds of things. So now we don't have any face to face. I'm relying on a lot of the stuff that I did in years past.
So you do a lot of things on. You have quite a few different things. I was checking out your website and I saw that you have it's called Silas. Is that what it's called? Can you talk a little bit
The
about that?
my
Because that's a pretty interesting thing.
So I started in 1987. I started writing stories and trying to figure out how to put them together into some sort of a commercial, you know. But I call it the World Siliar. It's SILIAR.com, SILIAR. I started writing that in 1987. Within the stories are examples of these things that I think are important, examples of the life lessons that I hope people can walk away from, examples of um, interpersonal relationships and how they go right and how they go wrong and things like that. So, yeah, I started that. I went through years and years of writing, and then in like 2005 or seven, or I can't remember, 2005, I was like, it's done, and it was horrible. It was 2,000 pages, one story. Maybe there might have been two stories like you could. So in a few years ago, I decided I was going to pull that out and begin to rework it. So 2016, 2017, I reworked the whole thing. And then I looked at the way the kids read, and they read like this now. They don't have physical books. Maybe
Right.
one student in every one of my classes will have a physical book, and so um, then I have two older sons. One's 30, one's 29, and one of them is like, Dad, things have changed. There's no need for a story to be just pages in a book. With and we kind of brainstormed, and so I adopted what I call an agile delivery. Agile is a computer science concept where programs roll out and they change as they need to change. And so by writing the story into a web format, if I want to add something over to the side, a side story, um, there's no like, oh, well, we're going to fit it in page wise. You just fit it in and put a link to it,
Right there.
and so it has become. Um, I've put a lot of time into it over the last couple of years of rolling it out. So I'm editing like really super close edit, and then I'll put it on the website, and then a super close edit and put it on the website, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping that can grow into something that reaches a lot of people. Let's just put it like that.
If you all the platforms that you have going on and all the things that you have going on, which one do you think is the most beneficial? If someone was to say, "Hey, I need to follow someone who's going to motivate me," or whatever, what are you most proud of? Which one would you say, "Hey, this is the one that we need to go to"?
So I have BillSnodgrass.com, and all of my stuff is available there on BillSnodgrass.com, and it's just that Bill Snodgrass, SNODGRESS.com. Links to everything I have is there. Of those, which am I most proud of? they sort of serve different functions. There's a blog I do for the science class that's actually used by people not just in the science class. So that's actually gotten quite a bit of traction outside the people who actually know me. Then there's also the video companions on my YouTube channel, which is linked. It's also Bill Snodgrass on YouTube. Actually, Bill Snodgrass on most of my platforms. I think my Facebook is Bill Snodgrass 1, but um, I don't know. What am I most proud of? I feel like in 2020, the capacity for TikTok to reach a lot of people is huge, and it sort of fits the culture of the instant gratification culture.
Right.
60 seconds max. I mean, I feel like on my 60-second videos, the last second gets cut off, so I always try to do 58.5 second max video, a 58.5 second message, and I've noticed the kids are like, wow, this is really long. I'm like, it's 58.5 seconds. What will you want? 10 seconds? You want a 10-second video? What, Twitter sort of forced everyone to condense their writing, and TikTok is forcing everyone to condense their speaking. So I feel like right now the place where the potential to reach the most people, I feel like, is probably TikTok. As far as in the lifetime scheme, I'm definitely most proud of the Ciliar project, even though it is probably the most underutilized. It's the one that has the most hours of time put into it. The thing that I've poured more thought and energy into than anything else, really. I started in 1987, so I spent like 18, a whole almost 18 years working on the first version of it. And I learned how to be a writer, and I learned how to punctuate and spell better, and I went back and put it all into digital and all those sorts of things. So then the rewrite really came out a lot. They usually say in writing is that someone should write their first 10 novels and then throw them all away. I sort of did that. I wrote it all into one. I wrote it all into one novel, which was a 2,500 page, 500,000 word or something ridiculous. Absolutely, absolutely unusable manuscript. But in doing that, I learned how to create story, and then I took the same story and rewrote it and put a lot more character development in and to the latest version. So.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
answers your question.
yeah, it's a big project, because when I looked on there, I'm like, holy smokes, there's like 5 blogs on there. There's all kinds of stuff that, yeah, I mean, it looks like you put a lot of work into it. I kind of wondered where you had the time to do this if you're doing all these other things. So you just find it's your passion, I guess.
I kind of just pulled everything together on BillSnodgrass.com. So the stuff so kids were like, I can't ever find your YouTube, or I can't ever find your thing, or I can't ever find whatever they're. I was in a parent meeting. They were like, wait, you put all your notes on your blog? Where's your blog? And so I told them the blog address. And they were like, I can't remember that. I was like, all right, just go to BillSnodgrass.com. So I redid my Bill Snodgrass website so that it becomes the portal to everything else. So. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you. I have one last question. I think you kind of defined it a little bit already, but can you just, this show is called Shaping Success, and it's basically how you deem success, because it's different for everyone. It may be you're a teacher, right? And that makes you happy in all the things that you do. And some people, they're happy working at McDonald's, collecting garbage, things like that. So what is your success? What is the shape of your success?
So for me personally, it is looking at on a kind of on a weekly basis and say, did I interact with someone in a way that helps them to become better versions of themselves? That's my personal life mission, helping people become better versions of themselves. And so for anyone, the definition of success is going to be, what is it you're trying to do? Did you do it? And comparing what you've actually done. And so if you have an overall mission under which you have particular goals, and maybe you do the mission goals objectives model. So did you meet some of the objectives that are some part of a goal that leads back to your mission as a person, as a business, as a whatever? What is it that you're trying to do, and did you accomplish it? And this is the problem. I feel like most people don't really know what they're trying to do. And so they go, whoa, look, I got this promotion at work and I should really feel good about this, but it just makes me feel stressed out. And maybe it's because they don't really know what they're trying to do, that the promotion at work was something that maybe sort of fits with what they're trying to do, but maybe sort of doesn't fit. Maybe it's in conflict with some of the things that they're really trying to do. So like I said, for me, it was in my, I guess, early 40s when I stopped to say, what is it that I'm really trying to do? Am I trying to make a lot of money? No, I'm not. I'm not trying to. That doesn't. Money's nice, but that's not an end. It's a means. Am I trying to have a lot of friends? No, not the kind of people who are like socially popular and go. So what is it that I'm really trying to do? Once I identified what that was, then I could line everything I do, my career, my hobbies, my social media, all those things can line up under what it is I'm really trying to do. And so I would say to your listeners, to your viewers, stop before you do something else. Figure out what your long-term win is. What does it look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now? When you stop and look back, what is it going to be? What are you going to be proud to say that you did? Are you going to be proud to say that you do that thing that's going to make you proud?
Yeah, and that's great. That is awesome. You need to have a goal. You need to have an idea of what you want to do before you can do it. And I think that's great because you set out, you figured out what that was. You begin with the end in mind, and then you try to reach that goal. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
A TikTok. You had a TikTok the other day, which was right on point to this, where you were saying that you've got to begin with missions and goals, and then you're going to build your plan into that. You don't just have a plan; the plan leads to something. And I was like, yeah, that's dead spot on. That's dead spot on. So
yeah. Well, it's great. I think we've talked about everywhere that we can find you. Is there anywhere else you want to let anyone know about, or do you pretty much got it all there?
It's all on BillSnodgrass.com. If you want to find me, that's where I am.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in. If you feel that this has brought you any value, please share it with someone and give the podcast a 5-star review. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.
This was Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley, brought to you by Aggressive Marketing Solutions. If you need a team of marketers to help you with social media, all you need to do to start is text Wes 2020 to 541-709-6502, 541-709-6502. That is Aggressive Marketing Solutions. Have a great day. See you next time.